Jason, I'm not being responsible with my caffeine intake. If I take one more piece of caffeine in this body, I think my heart's going to explode.
That's a good thing.
But are you to blame because you poured me another cup?
I did. And I spilt a little bit on your keyboard of your laptop.
You did spill it on this very
while you were talking to your family
nice,
on the phone.
expensive laptop.
And next thing you know, it was like
smoking up.
I didn't do that.
No, but let me ask you though. You poured me that cup of coffee. I could have just left it to go cold, but I drank it anyway. So are you responsible, or am I responsible?
It depends on how you're observing it.
Well, I'm observing the fact that I was the one that sipped it, right? So
yeah, because you could say it's 100% your responsibility but is the level of, because I'm wanting to take this into like a macro country view. So if you have if you dropped off Hershey chocolate bars in a very remote village in, wherever,
yeah.
And they begin to eat the chocolate bars, and then you begin to just drop them off.
So now,
and then,
oh, this is interesting.
Do you see what I'm saying? And so now all of a sudden you start getting diabetes, and there's a dependence, and they know every Thursday at 1 p.m. because it's happened for 2 years now, chocolate bars, and you're starting to see obesity and people dying early and all that stuff. So what was their level of intelligence in processing that? Would it be their fault then? Because they're just looking at it as like honey or like a hunter-gatherer tribe.
So this hypothetical tribe. So this is interesting. It's not.
Sorry, I just threw a.
I don't know if it's intelligence, but frankly, just a sense of awareness. Maybe they're not aware to the scientific concepts of eating too much sugar.
Yeah, because they don't know. They're just looking at it.
They've never been taught.
Yeah, because when they get honey, because that's what they would reference it to, I think, because there's very few things that would be sweet.
So this hypothetical tribe somewhere, you just keep dropping the stuff off. If somebody doesn't know any better,
right?
Not at no fault of their own.
Right.
Zero fault of their own. I want to make sure that is abundantly clear.
Right.
Shouldn't you then take on the responsibility to be like, we probably shouldn't be doing this. Just for instance, if you look at terms and conditions of most things that you sign up for, 99% of us don't know what the hell these things are saying.
Or that free app you download for the horoscope.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And then but the company who put it together, they know better.
Yeah.
They are well aware of what's involved in the product and everything else, and whether it be chocolate,
tracking on your phone,
or an app, right? So if you're just dosing people with this sugar or this app, these dopamine hits essentially, and it's creating systemic issues, shouldn't you think to be more responsible?
And I think corporations, and Alex, you know this as I do, corporations like to dish the responsibility onto the individual and take it away from themselves as the identity.
And this is why I talked about the coffee. You poured me the coffee.
Right.
I still chose to drink it. Right? And that's probably the comment that they make. Like, well, you still chose to drink it. You still chose to download the app.
Right.
Well, so hold on a second. You got to understand everybody's at a different level here. No one's at the same level. Not one person. So if they fundamentally do not know any better through no fault of their own, but you know better, I mean, this is a very irresponsible thing you are doing.
Right.
You need to be aware of this. You cannot pass off that blame. And so there's this interesting article here. It's called Trying to Make Sense of What? The Modern World.
What is going on in the world?
Yeah, it's like trying to make sense of it, right? And what this boils down to, a lot about what we talk about, and these issues with governments not securing human rights and things of that issue, small arms proliferation, stuff like that, educational access, is a lack of groups or entities or businesses or governments from taking responsibility. They just don't take the responsibility. And great things happen when a government and a business and also individuals choose to take responsibility.
Yes.
That's where things really flourish, right? Because then there's a deeper respect for what's going on here, and it's not just a function of like a blame game. It's a blame game. It's like, no, we need to act in a more truthful wise.
Yeah. And he talks about like, it's more fragmented than ever when we look at this world, and then these systematic changes to overcome the challenges that we face. And he kind of has an index. It's called the Good Country Index.
Yeah.
And we need to find the word good. And he does a great job at defining the word good.
Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at a nation. He says good is the opposite of selfish.
Yeah.
So, which is perfect.
I like
because it's not,
that
it's not bad. And, like we think good and then the opposite is bad.
Mm-hmm.
But he's saying good is the opposite of the action that you're going to commit. Is it all consuming self to myself?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
Without a concern for others. So a country could display that, whether it's its government or its corporate identities, however.
Right. And if they need to highlight that, information, the story about people within that country will help you highlight what is good or what is quite selfish. And you'll be able to see that in their nature and your own nature.
Yeah, and he says the world is in turmoil today because of the introspective nature and the microscopic vision of people, which affects the way we think, the way we lead, and the way we are governed.
Right. And all three of those things are currently lacking a lot of responsibility. In introspection, you need to find that responsibility within yourself, right? This is your life. You got to lead it. If this is your country, you need to actually lead it. If these are your people, you need to respect their rights. We're all human beings, and it's human beings operating governments. So at the base of it, it's the responsibility of a human being.
Yeah, and that's what he said, is simply to do the right thing by your own people.
Correct, yeah.
And then he says the responsibility must be wider to contribute to our collective well-being, including the global commons, the environment, the planet, and the rest of the world. It's simple. How people behave individually and collectively defines good.
Mm-hmm. And so when you look at that collective,
right?
Data is a great way to understand responsibility and that collective nature. And then coming together to highlight the good and then highlight the selfish, highlight what really works and what isn't working. And shining light on that allows people to be like, you know what? I wasn't being responsible. And because we're working with this open nature of this open marketplace and open data, anybody can purchase it.
Yes.
So a government can't hide its irresponsibleness, right? Corporations can't hide
that makes sense,
their
yes.
ability to be irresponsible because now anybody can share that data on irresponsibility.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And he says, and I love this quote, education is always the answer to every social and economic problem.
It is.
That's so
remember
simple.
I said at no fault of their own.
Right.
In the beginning, they just don't know any better because they haven't had the availability of the access to education to know.
Yeah. So you've introduced chocolate, simple sugars, and there's no education in that tribe to understand how bad it is for them. They just know that it's there, it's available, it's been given to them, and it's sweet and it tastes amazing.
This is why we always champion education first with TARTLE.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're looking at data, this new thing, this new type of candy, essentially for the market, right? You have to understand where the responsibility is. You have to understand how it works, what the value is, how it's affecting everybody because we're all interacting with it, right?
Yeah, he says human behavior is woven into every individual based on an individualized experience of education, culture, and upbringing. And I kind of want to stay there a little bit. Education, culture, and upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at these countries, and we have 176 countries, and we see what is these education, culture, and upbringing. And people don't realize how programmed they are by these three pillars.
Think about your own programming through when you were growing, not you, but anyone listening to this, as you grew up, your parents, right? Or even if you were an orphan, okay? The environment you were in. Mm-hmm. These things were all this cognitive programming that happened ahead of time. And then when you inundate yourself with culture and then how these people are thinking and then the rest of the environment that you're in, that's going to form you to a certain way of thought, a certain way of action.
Right.
So you have to look at the combination. It's not just, it'd be nice if it's just a simple linear thing, but it's not.
Yeah, it'd be like somebody believing in flat earth. Like their parents are huge proponents of flat earth, which is easily debunked. And so you're raised as a child and they're adamant about it, almost to religious, to a sense. So they're training you and teaching you all this flat earth stuff.
The Earth's not flat?
Well, you can go on YouTube and I'll tell you why it's not, why it is. So now you become 13, 14, 15. You're getting into that stages where you're testing things. Yep. And you're like, wow, the Earth is actually round and it's scientifically proven that it is. And everything my parents have said, because that's an easy one to debunk.
Yeah, but that metaphor works for even a corporation. Wow, wait a minute. look at all this data about people who've been interacting with it. It's totally different than what this corporation has been saying is actually happening. And I like to use this for hospitals. Hospitals have this thing called a net promoter score.
Yes.
Oh, we're doing great. Says what? Says the economics of your situation, how quickly you get people out of bed. What about the people that haven't come into your hospital? What about the people that have been there and don't ever want to come back? Have you talked to them?
Yes.
Your rating scale is unbalanced. And it's irresponsible of you not to look at the entire picture of information or things that interact with your good or service. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's good is not the measuring stick for success.
No, your measuring stick for success should be the evolution of human life and our species. Have you helped humanity evolve?
But what I'm saying is they're measuring it off of how many patients did we get revolving through the door.
But that's not what it is.
It's not. That's why I always say it's sick care, not health care.
That's right. They're measuring on sick care. I want to keep people healthy.
Right.
I want to keep them living longer. And you're only measuring when people are coming, getting sick into here and how much you can bill them for. That should not define a good NPS.
No.
It's irresponsible to think that way.
And Simon Henholt, the founder of the Good Country Project, he says this. He says, a universal upheaval. When you mention those words, I'm like listening.
Revolution.
A universal upheaval of education systems around the world to teach values that will build a new generation that will run towards the global challenges instead of running away from them.
Yeah. Upheaval are drastic changes and improvements made for the better. Made to better the order and structure of society. That's what an upheaval is.
So he's saying, because if you think about it, this is a long-term approach. So if we start educating children now to run towards the problems, these global challenges that we have, that's 20, 30, 40 years.
Things that fits in this big 7.
Yeah, if we did that, 30, 40 years from now, we could have change.
Yeah.
But it's like, I get that, and that needs to happen. But how do we get people now to understand responsibility, to educate themselves, or have a desire for that?
That's like the tough thing, right? Right. MasterCard said in their article, this audacious 2050 goal.
Right.
Okay, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm not waiting. The world is not waiting that long. You need to do it right now. If you realize that something needs to change and you're putting like a 30-year timeline on it, that means you're not being responsible for 30 years. You need to start being responsible right this second.
Yes.
Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
You already know better. You're just ignoring it. So that introspective aspect of what's going on here, data allows people to be a little introspective because it's agnostic.
Right.
In its raw form for what it's collecting, it's just really, it's an agnostic, non-dogmatic thing. It just says, it tells it how it is. So when we look at that, it's like, wow, I need to be a little bit more responsible, because if I strip away the biases and how I've been perceiving things and just look at it for what it is, shows me that I've been not headed in the right direction here.
Yeah, and whenever we look at, he goes into like he talks about collaboration, and then he talks about co-opetition, I guess.
Competition.
Yeah, competition.
Happened in Japan between the automotive manufacturers.
Right, in the 1970s, and we saw what happened with the level of automobiles, as far as quality goes.
Yeah, they thought that they could pin, they'd put in competition like 2 manufacturers in their factories and said like, who can build the best one? So through that competition, it was more of like a beneficial thing, and it's called co-opetition, which means in the co-op is essentially it's an idea of joining these people together towards common cause rather than competition. It's a separation for another separation in the end.
Yeah, and he says this, and I want to park here for just a few minutes and talk.
Is that a car pun?
Yes. I try to throw them out there every once in a while. A business has a direct influence over the lives of nearly as many people as governments do. If
not more.
That's what I was going to say, because every influence, especially cultural influences, are done by corporations. It's marketing. That's what I'm in.
Current politicians,
what do they do?
They couldn't be able to have influence if it wasn't for social media. Think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So who has the real power stick right there?
Yeah.
I think that he needs to invert
Twitter,
that
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. Those are all the things that have all the power. They have way more influence right now than government.
You're influencing people's short attention spans. If you can get them to move left, and they didn't realize they did it because they forgot 2 seconds later, and you have them do that 10,000 times, you've now shifted people from here to a totally different paradigm, and they didn't even realize it.
Well, you're just delivering chocolate to them 20 times a day.
If not more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if I had chocolate for 6 hours straight.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how you'd be like a mess.
And we talked about that in our other podcasts. It's this overload, this, and our nervous systems cannot biologically handle this.
No, it can't. And then you're really it's throwing things out of balance. And then when things are out of balance, then that's where the control comes in.
So I think corporations have more of an influence on our day-to-day lives.
The greater the influence?
Politics really doesn't, I always tell people this. You get so worried about who's the president or whatever. It's like, how did it change your income? How did it change your day from day?
Yeah.
It from Donald Trump being president to Joe Biden being president, how is it less responsibility, more responsibility? I mean, you can get all, but on your day-to-day, the things you do
day-to-day
when you're awake, how does it change it?
Yeah.
And for most of us, it doesn't. I can go back 5 presidents.
Nothing changed.
And what I do or don't do, the ability for me, I mean, in America, we live in a free country. We're blessed. Whatever you want to consider that to be. But I have the opportunity to move in whatever. I can say I don't want to live in Albuquerque. I want to live in Austin, Texas.
Okay, go.
Or I want to live in Seattle. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Or I don't want to work here anymore. I'm going to go do this now. Or at nighttime, I'm going to learn.
Is that how you really feel?
No. No, but at nighttime, I'm going to work this job. But at night, I'm going to do this side hustle for this business that I want to start because I want to be entrepreneurial. We have opportunity.
Yeah.
So, and we have the ability. See, this is the part that pisses me off, Alex, is you have more education. Harvard. I was on yesterday. I was online, MIT's website. I mean, the more I hang out and
they got a great website.
Yeah, they got great articles, great books. I mean, I just really am impressed. They had a whole series available on their website to listen to about systems, a whole series of professor videos, not just a class, the textbooks, 2 textbooks for free. And then someone had gone through and done like the Cliff Notes for the books.
Yeah.
PDFs free. There is so much education that is available right now, just on YouTube alone, that is available right now that you can literally teach yourself anything.
Yeah.
You could teach most people do. They teach themselves how to code, whatever occupation you want to be in life. I guarantee you could watch enough videos, you could listen to enough audio, you can do enough studying to become that for free.
So if we have all the power to do all this stuff, we need to be responsible, right?
Well, how do we do that?
Well, it's like the old Superman quote: "Great power comes great responsibility." Is that Superman?
But so I want to encourage people this, Alex. I want to encourage people to get rid of all their social media. But before you delete your account, I want you to do this:
download it all into TARTLE.
Yeah, you're going to download it all into TARTLE, and every day. You're only going to go to TARTLE's website.
Oh, Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
We don't want you going to Wikipedia. We don't want you going to Gmail.
No.
You're just going to hang out for 8 hours a day, and there's going to be a live feed of Alex and I just playing 24/7.
You're just going to listen to us.
Yeah, and all the extra TVs you have in your house, we want that live feed playing on those.
Yeah,
we need viewers.
We're your new CNBC Squawk Box. Okay? But no, I think back to Spider-Man. We all know who he is. It's called the Peter Parker principle. With great power, there must also come great responsibility.
Oh, of course.
We have all these resources as corporations, governments, and individuals that have great power, but we need to be responsible with how we use them. And in doing so, that's going to create that social upheaval that will help elevate us to the next stage of what it means to be a human being within this collective on this planet.
Yeah, and he says this, and this Simon Inholt, and we'll close on this. He says, you're responsible for your own people. Yes, and for every single man, woman, child, and animal on the planet. Whether you like it or not, you're responsible for your own premises in your own territory. Yes, and for every inch of the Earth's surface and the atmosphere above it and the soil beneath it. Whether you like it or not, and if you don't like it, you shouldn't be in a position of power or authority, because that is the rule of life on Earth today.